CNN on this Monday. Thank you so much for being with me. I'm Brooke Baldwin. I want to begin with just the unthinkable. Just 16 days before the inauguration of a successor, a new extreme and a new low from this president, all laid bare in audio obtained by CNN. So when this hour-long phone call, President Trump repeatedly pushes Georgia's Republican Secretary of State to, quote, find more votes for him. The bullying is deliberate. The threats are blatant, and the demands at the center of it are possibly illegal.
The people of Georgia are angry. The people of the country are angry. And there's nothing wrong with saying that, that you've recalculated. So, look, all I want to do is this. I just want to find 11,780 votes, which is one more than we have, because we won the state. So what are we going to do here, folks? I only need 11,000 votes. Fellas, I need 11,000 votes. Give me a break.
Now, on the other end of that phone call, you can hear the Georgia Secretary of State objecting to the president's requests. And today, a source telling CNN that the White House actually attempted to contact Brad Raffensperger's office no less than 18 times, 18, between Election Day and this past weekend.
No, I never believed it was appropriate to speak to the president, but he pushed out. I guess he had his staff push us, and they wanted to call. The challenge that we have, first of all, we're in a litigation mode with the president's team against the state of Georgia. And whenever you say anything, then you do have to have your advisors there. They had to have their advisors there with lawyers. And so I just preferred not to talk to someone when we're in litigation. We let the lawyers handle it. But we took the call, and we had a conversation. He did most of the talking. We did most of the listening. But I did want to make my points that the data that he has is just plain wrong.
Just plain wrong. Now, the Georgia Secretary of State's office is actually expected to hold a press conference any moment now. We're going to be watching that. We'll bring that to you as soon as we have that up. Now, some state Republicans say that the president's shakedown will only hurt the monumental special elections taking place tomorrow in Georgia. Keep in mind, the control of the U.S. Senate is at stake. So this is huge, huge. CNN's White House correspondent Caitlin Collins is live in Georgia for us this afternoon when the president is expected to campaign this evening in the city of Dalton. Caitlin, how is the White House responding today to this wave of criticism now that this audio has been so widely circulated?
Well, Brooke, it's not even clear how many White House officials knew that this call had taken place until that audio was released by the Secretary of State's office yesterday, because I've spoken to several people who said they weren't even aware that a call had happened with the Georgia Secretary of State. Of course, one person we do know who was aware of it was the Chief of Staff, Mark Meadows, who was on the call, started off that call that the president had before he basically spent the entire time speaking and even cutting off his own attorneys on this. But one person who is a pretty notable absence from that call was the White House counsel, Pat Cipollone. Now, remember, the Georgia Secretary of State had his legal counsel on the call. He explained that this morning, saying he felt that was necessary given the litigation that's ongoing with the Trump campaign and what's happening with the president's allies in the state of Georgia. But the president's legal counsel was not. And instead, he had these two new attorneys who several officials said they did not even know were actually working for the president, because he's changed attorneys so many times and added so many new faces to the team over the last several weeks since he actually lost the election. And so it's kind of become one of those moments where there are White House staffers who are trying to distance themselves from the president's latest efforts as they grow more desperate to try to overturn the results of the election. But also just seeing the president lash out in this way, where you see how small the circle has gotten and how few people there are around the president that are actually involved in what's going on a day-to-day basis, as he is getting more desperate in these attempts to try to subvert the will of the voters and what's happening in the election. And of course, they fear that that is what he is bringing here to Georgia tonight, and it's going to be less about those two Republican senators who are in the race tomorrow and more about the president and his grievances.
As we mentioned, between Election Day and this weekend, 18 attempted calls between the president and the Georgia Secretary of State. Caitlin, thank you so much. Now, this audio tape delivers another loyalty test for Republicans up on Capitol Hill, and for that, let's go to CNN senior congressional correspondent Manu Raju, who is live. And Manu, my question is, given this tape, will this be another day of lawmakers dodging your questions, the whole "I haven't heard the audio tape" bit, or are there any Republicans actually confronting the president's actions?
Well, there are some who are dodging, there are some who are defending, and there are some who are confronting. So people are getting into all sorts of camps. One person who has not weighed in clearly has been Kevin McCarthy, the House Republican leader. I asked him if he had any concerns about this call, if he was okay with this call. He would not answer those questions. He did say earlier in the day on Fox that he was asked generally about the call. He said that the president has always been concerned about the integrity of the elections. That's what Kevin McCarthy said. But his number 3 Republican in the House Republican leadership, Liz Cheney, told me that she has deep concerns over this phone call. She called it deeply disturbing. She urged everybody to listen to this call if they have a chance to listen to that full hour-long call, she told me. I asked her if she will join this effort on Wednesday to oppose what these House conservatives are trying to do and overturn the elections. She would not answer that question. She said she didn't want to comment any further, but we just received a statement from Pat Toomey, a Republican from Pennsylvania, who said the president's call represents a, quote, new low in this whole futile and sorry episode. And he said he commended Republican election officials for standing up to the president's efforts to go after the elections. And also, Brooke, some, of course, are continuing to defend the president, one being Congressman Jim Jordan, who is leading this effort on the House floor. I just talked to him. He told me that he has no concerns with what the president is doing, and he says it will not impact how much support they ultimately have on the House floor come Wednesday, even though we know they're not going to be able to change the results of the election, but they could delay it for several hours into Thursday, potentially.
I want to talk about all of this with my 2 next guests. Manu, thank you so much for setting up just what's happening on Capitol Hill and this really loyalty test among a lot of these Republicans. With me now, CNN political commentator and Republican strategist Doug Heye. Also with me, CNN chief political correspondent Dana Bash. So let's just dive on in. Dana, I want to begin with you. You know, the closer we get to Inauguration Day, 16 days, the farther away some Republicans and this president get from reality that this administration, as Manu just pointed out, is coming to an end.
Right. The administration is coming to an end, but the reality that they are facing is that the Trump grip on their party, the loyalty that the people who sent them to Congress have also to this president has not changed at all and won't change on January 20th.
Hang on one second, Dana. Let's go to Atlanta. This is Gary.